I was never the type who dreamed about marriage since childhood. I didn't have a folder with magazine clippings. I didn't know the name of my favorite shade of pink for decoration. I had never imagined the dress. But when Rodrigo proposed to me, on an ordinary Tuesday night, with a ring he chose himself and a speech that was a little awkward and very honest, I said yes without thinking twice. It wasn't a childhood dream I was fulfilling. It was something better. It was real. We met when we were 26 in a bank line. Yes, a physical bank, because the machine outside had broken and we both had checks to deposit like two dinosaurs. He complained about the heat. I agreed. He offered me his place in line because I looked like I was in a hurry, and I said he looked like a scammer. He laughed so hard that the security guard came over to see what was going on. 3 years later, it was me, him, a small apartment in Sakoma, a cat named Dostoevsky, who hated everyone equally, and a date set, September 14th. There were 92 days left until the wedding when my life fell apart. And the funny thing? The signs were there from the beginning. I just wasn't paying attention. Let me tell you what it's like when you don't want to see. You don't ignore things on purpose. It's not that you see a flashing red sign and decide to look the other way. It's more subtle than that. You find a reasonable explanation for every strange thing, and those explanations pile up so slowly that when the pile collapses, you don't even understand how it got so high. Rodrigo started working later. New project, pressure at work, the boss was unbearable, reasonable. His phone became his shadow. He took it to the bathroom, left it face down on the table, locked it as soon as I got close. I felt paranoid for noticing. Who was I to check his phone? The gym became a sacred routine. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, without fail, 2 hours. I thought it was good. A healthy man is a good thing. But there was one thing that didn't fit any reasonable explanation. The perfume. It wasn't his. It wasn't mine. And it was on the collar of the shirt I took out of the dryer on a Thursday night while he was having dinner in the living room. I stood there with that shirt in my hands for maybe 3 minutes. Then I dropped it in the laundry basket, went to the living room, sat next to him on the couch, and watched the rest of the news as if nothing had happened. Because I still wasn't ready to know. The confirmation came in a way I didn't expect. It wasn't me searching his phone. It wasn't me following him. It wasn't any plan of mine. It was a message that arrived on his phone while he was sleeping, and he didn't lock it in time because he had dropped it on the floor when sleep hit him faster than usual. I shouldn't have looked. I know that. But the name on the screen wasn't one I recognized, and the preview of the message said, "We need to talk about what you promised me." I picked up the phone. I read. I won't tell you everything that was written there, because some things you keep inside yourself not out of secrecy, but because saying them out loud hurts in a different way. What I can say is that it wasn't recent. There were 6 months of messages. 6 months that I knew from a completely different angle. The quiet weekends, the dinners when he came home excited, the good phase that I thought was the two of us. It was 6 months of a parallel life that I had unknowingly financed, because my name was on half of the bills. I put the phone back exactly where it was. I went back to bed. I lay down beside him, and I didn't sleep for a single hour. In the morning I made coffee, put his cup on the table, said I was going to the pharmacy, and left. I needed to think, and I needed to think far away from him. I went to the park 3 blocks from home. I sat on a bench. I stared at the artificial lake for I don't know how long. That's where she found me. I didn't recognize that face, but she clearly knew who I was. She was younger than I expected. Maybe 24, 25. Hair tied back, swollen eyes of someone who also hadn't slept. She sat on the bench next to me without asking and said, "You're Fernanda. I'm Camilla, and I think we need to talk." I didn't run away. I don't know why. Maybe because I already knew the conversation needed to happen. Camilla had been Rodrigo's college classmate. They had reconnected at a professional event 7 months earlier. He had told her he was single. He had told her the apartment was only his. He had told her many things. She discovered the truth 3 weeks before looking for me. She discovered it because she saw a photo of us on social media. A photo from our engagement, with congratulatory comments and the wedding date in the replies. She was as devastated as I was. And she was angry. A clean kind of anger, the kind you recognize as justified. "I didn't come here to fight you," she said. "I came because he needs to answer for what he did, to me and to you." And that's when the conversation changed direction. Because Camilla had proof, saved carefully by someone who always knew she might need it. It took us 4 days to build the plan. It wasn't impulsive revenge, it was surgical. I stayed at home as if nothing had happened. I smiled at dinner. I confirmed the flower vendor on WhatsApp in front of him. I asked if he had called the best man about the suit. Rodrigo had no idea. Meanwhile, Camilla and I met every morning at the same park. She brought the screenshots organized in folders named by date. I brought what we needed: access to the joint account we had opened for wedding expenses. We discovered that he had spent $4, $800 from that account in 3 months. Restaurants, hotels, flowers. None of it was for me. On the 10th day, I did 3 things. First, I transferred the remaining balance of the joint account to my personal account. Technically, it was my money. I had deposited more. Second, I sent an email to the HR department of the company where he worked with screenshots of conversations that contained explicit references to a colleague from his team, not Camilla, a third person we discovered in her files. Not as a complaint, but as an anonymous concern about conduct. Third, I called my mother and asked her to come pick me up with my suitcases. When Rodrigo arrived home that night, I was gone. On the kitchen table, where I always left a note saying, "Went to the market," there was an envelope. Inside the envelope, the ring, and a sheet of paper with 1 sentence. "I know everything. Camilla does too. We'll talk." He tried to call me 117 times in 2 days. I know the exact number because I counted. I didn't answer any of them. At work, the anonymous concern became an internal investigation. He was suspended for 20 days while they investigated. Later he returned, but not to the same position. The joint account was closed. The apartment lease was in both of our names. I left, he stayed, and he also kept the termination penalty that was proportional to the contract time. Camilla filed a lawsuit for moral damages. The case was accepted. It is ongoing. Dostoevsky stayed with me. The cat always understood things better than I did. It's been 8 months. I now live with my cousin in a neighborhood on the other side of the city, and I like that. I like waking up without checking someone else's mood. I like deciding what's in the fridge. I like silence that doesn't feel heavy. The wedding never happened, but the Fernanda who would have married him doesn't exist anymore. There's only this one here, telling you this story. And this Fernanda? She's doing just fine. I thought a lot about what I would say if someone asked me for a lesson. It's not trust your instinct, because I trusted the instinct that wanted everything to be a lie, and that instinct slowed me down for weeks. It's not men are all the same, because that would be a stupid generalization, and Rodrigo was an individual who made individually horrible choices. What I learned is this: when the pile of reasonable explanations gets too high, it's time to stop stacking them. And sometimes the person who understands you the most in the hardest moment of your life is exactly the last person you expected. Camilla and I still have coffee together at least once a month. We're not close friends, but we are witnesses to each other's story. And I discovered that this is a kind of bond that doesn't break easily. If you are in a relationship where the pile of explanations is growing, this story is for you. You already know what you need to know. The question is when you will be ready to act.